Welcome to the Gearbox Podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Purdy. On this podcast, we're not just exploring the latest trends and technologies in the automotive industry, we're also getting real about the journey. Yes, the bumpy road of mistakes and lessons learned hard along the way.
This is the Gearbox Podcast.
You never quite know what's going to be coming out of our mouths, you know?
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that the truth, man?
So, Mr. David Marks, you're in Missouri. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm out. Yeah. It's I could call it a lot of other things. Missouri.
Missouri.
Yeah, Missouri. Yeah. I'm just west of St. Louis is where I'm at. I'm in St. Louis County. I'm west of St. Louis.
Oh, right on. Is that metropolized? Is it kind of smaller?
No, it's not metropolized. So St. Louis City, there's St. Louis City, and then there's St. Louis County. That's where I'm in. And then in St. Louis County, there's like 92 what we call municipalities. And the city, the county, and the municipalities do not get along.
Interesting.
Because once upon a time, there was talk, they called it Better Together, because the city's broke. Okay. And it's one of the highest crime rated cities in America. It is. It's one of their murder rate's crazy. It's one of the highest crime rated cities in America. And they try to do
like Detroit, huh?
Yeah. Oh, dude, we're the St. Louis. If you Google the top 5 most dangerous cities, I'd be shocked if St. Louis doesn't pop up.
Wow.
And what they wanted to do was combine the city and county and called it Better Together. That got voted down. If it would have went through, St. Louis would have been the 9th largest city in the nation. I don't know where it ranks right now. I have no idea. It's sad because St. Louis is actually heavily segregated, and it's really sad. And it's always been like that, and I don't see it changing. I mean, the city, the county, and I think there's like 90 municipalities in St. Louis County. I'm in the one called Maryland Heights. It's crazy, and none of them get along.
That's interesting.
Yep, it's interesting. Yeah, because some municipalities have good household media income. You know, they generate a lot of tax revenue for that municipality, and some of them manage their money very well. In other words, it's obvious it's a complete joke and it's completely mismanaged. So what that would have done is a lot of people, that myself included, that live and operate their business in a municipality that has a good household media income, where the tax revenue is being used appropriately. I didn't want that going to a municipality or part of the city where it's been mismanaged, and it's obvious. It's like, that's not our fault. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to, how do I improve my local community, not another one that went in the tubes because of, the residents didn't voted in the wrong people. That's not my fault.
Yeah,
and that's
a good point.
A lot of it had to do with it. And it's like, how do you take a city? St. Louis is one of the oldest cities in America. It goes back to the 1700s, if I'm not mistaken. It's that old. And, it was a gateway. It's gateway to the West. That's why the arch was built. St. Louis was the gateway to the West. And when you're, because once upon a time, the St. Louis Cardinals for decades were the only team west of the Mississippi until the Giants and Dodgers moved to LA and San Francisco in the mid 50s. So it's always been the gateway to the West. And it's just, I don't even know why we're going down this rabbit hole with the history of St. Louis. This has nothing to do with automotive, but
it does, man. That's how America was built. Because it goes way back to like horse and buggy, right? And then that was the invention of the automobile. No one was sold on it, right? Like, I don't need one of those. I've been getting around just fine, and that's just like what we fight every day, right? Is like the history of the evolution. And I mean, it's like right now with the electric vehicles. Like, is that the next thing or not? Who knows? But I guess the main thing is going back to the history is like trying to sell people this vehicle, right? Like, which now is like you can't go without it, right? Like everyone thinks it's a right, not a privilege. So another rabbit hole we're going down, but I mean, history is an important part of the automotive community, right?
Oh, absolutely. So St. Louis is because yes, we do have a public transportation system. and it's not safe, and no one wants to use it. You hear constantly on our public transportation, people getting shot, stabbed, robbed. You're SOL in this town without a car, just flat out. I
Yeah,
just
it sounds like it's more dangerous than like a
oh
necessity. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. We have it, and it's a complete joke. It's not safe. So on outside of so if you come into St. Louis, you go west into St. Louis County, you cross the Missouri River into what's called St. Charles County, which dude, there's a ton of money out there, and they have voted down multiple times our public transportation system in St. Louis City and County to St. Charles because they know what it's going to bring. It's going to bring crime. It's going to bring, the people that, they got nothing to lose. So they're not afraid to rob somebody, stab somebody, and kill somebody, because that's just the environment that they grow up in. And that's been voted down multiple times. Every time it comes up to vote, they shoot it down because they know
Wow.
exactly what it's going to bring. So we just really don't have a public transportation system. So I'm in the best business. It's pick your poison.
Yeah.
Either
I
pay
was
me or
gonna
go make a
say,
car payment.
so how does that translate for you running your shop every day? You're a tire shop and General Auto?
Yeah, we're full service auto repair, and then I'm unique because I also have my Missouri used auto dealer license. I
Okay.
buy and sell as well, and I also got into financing this year. I got 7 people making monthly car payments to me, so I'm doing that as well through a lease to own program on used cars. There's me and one other person in St. Louis area doing that. Other than that,
Now that sounds a little scary considering the little bit of a backstory we got there. I mean, how's
well,
that work
it's
with the default and all that stuff?
Well, what's cool about the program that I'm on, so the program is developed by Northland Auto Solutions that goes back to the 90s, and its target market is subprime customers. Well, with the market that I'm in, it attracts prime and mid prime, and I'm talking about credit scores. So I'm really working to get more of this in the mid prime because people that have a prime credit score, I'm not going to debate what qualifies prime, mid prime, and subprime. They're just going to go finance a new car
Yeah.
because they have the financial capability to do that. But this program, I feel, is really awesome for that mid prime. Okay, where they're not going to get the interest rate that a prime customer can, and they may not have the income to do it. So for so one, interest rates are regulated at the state level based on the industry. Okay, and this is a state funded, state regulated, not national. Okay, and used auto dealers are regulated at the state level, not the federal level. Okay, that doesn't mean that there's federal laws that apply. In all states, though, they're regulated at the state level, at least for used auto dealers. I can't speak on what the laws are for a new franchise dealer. I don't know. In the state of Missouri, the Missouri Department of Revenue is who issues licenses for auto dealers, both new and used. Mine is up for renewal at the end of the year,
Yeah, in
and
some states, the wild wild west when it comes to that stuff. So who knows what it is? Even county to county sometimes I feel like, but especially state to state, right? But
Missouri, they're pretty loose. I want to say it's pretty easy to get a dealer's license in the state of Missouri. The Missouri State Highway Patrol who signs the application. So in the state of Missouri, as long as you get a state trooper to sign his name and put his badge number on the application, the Missouri Department of Revenue will issue a dealer's license. Because what they look at is when that happens is that you've met the requirements to have a bona fide place of business to be a used auto dealer. You got to get a criminal background check through the Missouri State Highway Patrol. They do not allow convicted felons to have dealer licenses. You got to be bonded and have insured. So as long as you meet those boxes, which isn't a
wow,
lot,
that's
they'll
not
issue.
much. It's a little
No,
different than
it's not.
California because I've looked into that for the Cal. I'm like, I don't even really want to sell cars. So I give you props for doing that, right? But I don't even like. I just wanted the license in case I do because I think it's 15 in California. If I believe if I sell 15 cars, I'm required to have a dealer license, a used dealer license,
Mm.
and that'll happen quick, right? Like sometimes by July, it's like people leave their cars, they don't want to fix it. I don't know about
Hmm.
now. In the last couple of years, I don't know if you've seen that too, but it's kind of transitioned. But in previous years, it's like, you know what? I'm gonna buy something new. What do you do with this? You want the
Hmm.
pink slip? And you're like, sure, I guess, right? And then you fix it and you sell it. So racking up 15 in a year was not a big deal. And it's like I don't want anybody to come knocking on my door if I sell too many, right? But looking
Hmm.
in the dealer license is like, yeah. maybe I'll just stop taking those cars for payment. Like, you owe me the diag, get the car towed out of here. I don't even want to, because it just sits in the back lot for 6 months anyway until we get to it.
That's one of the reasons why I have mine. I'll give you a perfect good example. Is I do that like 15 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
So in Missouri, you got to have, if you sell more than 6 as a private individual, they want you to have your dealer's license.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, it's 6. So I just did this last week. A lady had a Chevy Equinox. We all know what it needs. So she just literally just left it, gave it to me. So with the tow and the diag fee, I was at like 2 something. A junkyard bought it for $500 from me.
Yeah.
So I do that all the time. I'm dumbfounded how I find that a lot of shop owners are just closed-minded against auto sales. There's nothing wrong if you want to be just an auto repair shop owner, and there's nothing wrong with one of the things I'm going to talk about is I'm going to stir the pot. I am
I
going
like
to
it.
stir the pot, and I'm going to poke the bear, as we have too many people in these automotive groups. I'm not going to say which ones that are just convinced the only way you can make money is doing just auto repair, and if you want to do anything else, you're just crazy, you're stupid, you're all kinds of other things, and they
Mm-hmm.
don't understand, and they want to tell other people like myself what they think I should be doing. It's none of their damn business. If you want to be just an auto repair shop owner, fine. If you want to own 5 locations, fine. If you want to do what I'm doing, fine. It's not right, wrong, good, or bad. There's too many guys in these Facebook groups that we're all part of that think what other people are doing is right, wrong, good, or bad. And honestly, I've dropped out of some of them because of that. Because I'm tired of dealing with it. I'm tired of listening to it. They're closed minded, and they think the only way you can make money in automotive is doing just auto repair. And I don't
And
know
not just and
anybody.
not just auto repair, but just brakes, alignments,
Yeah, right.
and
Just the
tires,
auto repair that
right?
they're doing. Because,
Right.
dude, I made a ton of money flipping cars. You want to know where the money's at flipping cars? It's doing business with people from my repair business. Like, here's a good example. We had a lady. She had a 2015 Chevy GMC Denali with 200,000 miles on it. You could eat off this thing, dude. It was immaculate. That's no exaggeration, and it needed an engine. So I took it to the auction. It sold for 15 grand in lane. I got 14,475. I wrote her a check for 10,000, and she was ecstatic. You can't do that in auto repair, just
Yeah.
flat out. You
Yeah.
can't, and I got more stories behind that. And I get more money than a diag fee and a parking lot ornament, and the customer feels happy because I've got a few. I had a Jeep Cherokee. It was a 2014 or 15ish it was a SRT loaded, had everything on it. It needed an engine. I took it. I told the guy I could sell it at auction for you, and I'm going to put between 15 and 17 grand in your pocket, right? He goes, "What will you buy it off me for?" So I wrote him a check. I wrote his bank a check for 13,000, like $325, because that's what he owed on it. And then I wrote him the check. He went, got me the lien release, came back. I took it to auction. It sold exactly for 17 grand in lane. After the auction fee, I got like 16.7 or 16.6 something. So you take that spread, that's what I made.
Yeah.
And my sales, because all my 3 companies, they're all separate entities, right? So sales paid back the repair for the diag, and then it kept the profit. You can't do that on auto repair. Now, this didn't happen overnight. This took time to build up. Dude, I saw a lot of stuff at auction for people, and I get more than a diag fee and a parking lot ornament. It's already here. Mannheim's 9 miles from me. I can take it over there. I could probably put this in your pocket. They say do it.
That's awesome. I think it's location too, right? Like being close to the yard. For us, the closest Copart is like 4 hours, 3 hours away. So that's one of the things I've thought about too. But you got to have a carrier, and you got to be taking 3 or 4 cars at a time to make it make sense. But it doesn't mean you don't do it. And I'll agree. I mean, the only reason why I got to where I'm at is flipping cars, right? Like, I did it on the side. I was working for somebody, and I'd buy cars that were broken, and I'd fix them, I'd sell them,
Yep.
and it's all cash, right? I don't think you can build a business off of that, because as soon as you start doing it the right way, you that $1,000, $2,000 you made turns into $200, like, so it's like, okay, that's not a business model, but you can make a lot of money with it, right? And if it's something you're doing on the side to try to get a little cash in the savings, I don't see a problem with that, right? My accountant's probably screaming at me right now to not do that, right? But there's the right thing, and then there's realistically, right? Like, the bottom line is we need cash flow. We need cash in the pocket. How do we get that, right? And like you said, being closed minded, you don't think of these other opportunities that are sitting right in front of you, right? How do I, one of the things I wanted to bring up was getting creative with when something goes wrong. And we had a misdiagnosis this last week. We
Ooh.
called out a transmission, and it ended up being the catalytic converter. And the problem is, it was a quick diag. The guy was a DIY. He just came in to use our expertise. To, hey, I wanted to just make sure what it is. So he went and bought the trans, put it in his driveway, didn't fix the problem, then went to another shop, ended up being the cat. Now this is all hearsay, but it doesn't matter. I mean, luckily he came back to us and let us know, right? And I say luckily because that's a missed opportunity if he didn't, right? And it was like, and we ended up, I guess we ended up servicing the transmission, trying to alleviate it, and so it was a pretty big repair bill that he had after he left. And of course you get kind of upset and you're trying to think about what's going, like, how do we avoid this, right? And so my point was is using that as a pivot point to like get creative with it. So how do I make this better, right? And so one of the things I wanted to do was credit him $1,000 towards the shop to get him to come back, right? Hey, we made a mistake, flat out. Here's your money back for the diag. And he's like, well, just so you know, I'm out $3,000 that I didn't need to spend. It's like, well, it was a Kia with 160,000 miles on it. So you're probably going to need that sooner than later. But the point is, we were wrong, and I got to eat crow. Like that's the bottom line. And it's like, instead of getting upset about it, or instead of being closed mind about it, how do I look at this and say, how do I retain this guy, right? And what's the right thing to do? Maybe I should credit him some money towards the shop for his future repair bills, because he's obviously going to be keeping this car for a long time now. So, but it's just not being closed minded about it. And that sucks.
Yeah,
It's like, it doesn't happen a lot, but when it does, man, it stings.
yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I can't think of a time where that specific something to that extreme has happened. It has happened. I mean, what we've done, I think that's a situation by situational case.
Yeah.
And the caveat is the customer. We had we just picked up a new fleet account, and I actually did this. The blower motor wasn't working. I diagnosed it as a blower motor resistor, and I was wrong. It needed the control unit, is what it needed,
Mm.
and the customer paid the difference. We said, "Hey, this isn't wrong. This is what it takes to fix it." It was a few $100 more. He says, "Fine, no big deal, all good." And other people, in other situations, we've done it multiple ways where we just fix it and just keep our mouth shut and write up the ticket. We've fixed it and told the customer, and I think the customer is the caveat on that. Like you guys obviously wanted to retain that customer, and I applaud you for that. I think that's the ethical moral thing. What do we do? And I'm not going to answer this question because I don't know what I would do, because it's hard to get emotionally attached to a situation that I'm not emotionally involved in on this podcast. Is what do we do when it's somebody that after the fact we could care less and we just don't want to keep? What do we do? Because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
happened before too, and it's because I know that there's been situations where, and I'm just going to throw myself under the bus, is that has happened, and I may not do the right thing, or I do something, but I'll do this because I know they're not our customer. So
Yeah,
what do we do?
in this situation, it's kind of part of that. I mean, obviously, it's a DIY, and he went and fixed it himself. So I think ultimately, business wise, it's probably something we should just like wipe our hands clean. We made a mistake, so procedures are going to change on the shop floor. We're not going to just we're going to add a few steps to the SOP when it comes to transmission diagnosis, right? Like, this is a CVT Kia, and it's like, it's already kind of tough because those things are garbage as they, to begin with. I think it was just a shotgun diag, right? It had a bunch of miles on it. It was acting up. Probably needed trans, and the tech moved on to the next thing. Like, whose fault is that? It's my fault. It's my fault for not having something more in line to have a quality control after the fact when you're calling out, $6,000 repair. So maybe we put something in place where it gets to a certain number for a repair. Okay, well, I need to look at that, or someone more senior needs to look at it. But regardless, it's more like making sure that he knows we have empathy and like we want to stand behind our word. And giving his money back for the diag, I don't think is enough. Maybe it is. Maybe, like I said, I'm more emotionally attached to it, because he's probably not going to come back for more repairs. Not because we screwed up, but because he's just the guy that just, he had a major issue and he wanted an expertise. Everything else he handles himself. So he's probably not going to come back regardless, right? But it's just more like, man, I do feel like I do feel that, right? Like, because if I was in that position and I went and asked a professional and then I did the work, I'm like, man, really? And so
Yeah,
you have that little bit of empathy, but also it's like, it's just trying to find that line, making sure you're
right.
standing behind your integrity, but also that you're looking out for the best course for the business, right? Because I can't just be handing out thousands of dollars all the time for nothing. So it's a tough one.
I think you did the right thing by handing out the diag. That's what I would have done. And I would have explained to the customer that that was his choice to do that on his own.
Yeah.
He could have easily paid, because I know you, dude. If he'd paid you to do the repair and you would have done that repair and it didn't fix it, you would have just, hey, I'm going to fix it. I'm just going to charge you for that. And you would just ate the transmission. That's what you
Yeah.
would have done.
And that's what I was
So,
thinking too, and that's why the credit of that certain dollar amount was like, well, that's probably what we would have eaten anyway. So why not
mhm.
credit it to him to have him come back for more work and hopefully build a better relationship? So exactly, yeah, you're right.
I think you did the right thing. And because what I tell all my customers is whoever tells them what's wrong with the car, have them do it. Because we get people. This is what I do. Is I saw this avoids the finger pointing contest because nobody wins a finger pointing test. Because customer calls up, I need an alternator. Okay, well, what makes you think you need one, or what concerns you have? Well, I was told this. And I'll ask us, well, how come they're not fixing it? Just flat out,
Yeah,
because I want to hear what they have to say. And it's usually it's that trust. There's some level of trust, and I say that's fine. I said if you bring your car over here and we just put an alternator on it and we do zero testing and it doesn't fix it, I'm going to get paid and you're stuck holding the bag. And then if you go back to that shop, they're going to say, well, we didn't do the work. You're stuck holding the bag. So it's always best, whoever tells you what's wrong with it, let them fix it. Because if they're wrong, well, then you can point the finger at them. And
yeah,
I get people in the door with that way. Either it gets them off the phone. It's like they get it. It's like, no, this is why we're not giving a price, and this is why we're not doing that, because I just asked them, well, what would you do? And nobody's argued with that. People just cannot argue with this is how you avoid the finger pointing contest, because nobody wins in a finger pointing contest, and that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, if somebody had us tell them what's wrong with their car and then they took it to another shop and they fix it and didn't fix it, I'm gonna tell them that's not my problem. I don't know what they did. You
yeah.
didn't let us fix it.
There's that side of it too, and it's really depending on the person that comes back, and obviously, I mean, who knows what could have happened, right? Like maybe the transmission did have an issue, right? Maybe the cat caused the transmission to eventually fail. That's a very good
Yeah.
possibility, right? Like, so, but it doesn't matter. It's already in his head, and that's what kind of sucks about those situations because it's all hearsay. You don't know. You're talking about a plug cat causing torque management problems with a CVT transmission in a Kia. Like, yeah, it's very likely that the one created the other, but maybe it didn't. And that's that. But that it's like, okay, well, I got to have more integrity to like, stand behind that. And maybe I'm wrong for doing that, but I think it's the right thing to do to just help that certain situation, like, all right, well, and that's the unfortunate thing about growing. I think that's a growing pain because I can't be involved in every single diag and every single repair process. And that's one of the things, just personally for me, that I have to like learn to accept. If I want to have a crew of 15 guys and have two separate, locations, that's going to happen. And I got to figure out how to fix that, not try to avoid it. Does that make sense? Because
No, it makes
I'm never
perfect
gonna
sense.
be avoid it.
I would say it would be figuring out how to absorb that.
Yeah.
How do
Yep.
you absorb that? Because you're right, it's gonna happen, and I think there's some things as business owners, especially if we want to have employees like we do. It's what you signed up for. It's what you signed up for. If you can't accept it, to just be a one man band. There's nothing wrong with being a one man band. And if you're going to have employees like we do, like you want to have two locations, obviously you have managers in each one. You're going to have technicians and all that. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to cost you money. So what do we do to absorb that? Because you're right, we can't avoid it. And this is something this is cool that we're talking about this, because it's like, okay, I need to figure out how do I do that within mine, absorb it. I think that's the key, is figuring out how do we absorb it. And if you hire the right people, they will, they'll feel bad about it in a good way. Like, what can they learn from it as well, and saying, "Oh well, not my problem." That's what I got at
Yeah.
my shop is when my staff makes a mistake, they own it. They feel bad about it, and they own it, and it's something that we can learn from.
Yeah, and that comes to just leadership and management, right? How do you bring that up in a way that it's a teachable moment, right? Like with kids or whatever, right? And it's like, I mean, we'll laugh about it, but I mean, it's true though, like because everybody has to learn a different way. And I was just talking to my wife this morning about this at breakfast. Is like everybody was raised a different way, right? Some people need to be yelled at, like that's just how they were raised. Some people, you know what I mean? Like, but some people need to have a polite conversation, and so trying to find out which way get people to learn. But you only because if you're dealing with a problem like that all the time, well, then they need to be terminated, right? So the unfortunate thing is, it's like this once in a blue moon or once in a great while, something goes sideways, right? Their mind's somewhere else. They got something personal going on, and they're human. They made a freaking mistake, right? And I'm expecting them to never make a mistake because I wouldn't, but I care more about this business than they ever will. So it's not you can't it's not the same, you know? And so you're trying to learn how to manage this difficult situation with this one-off event, you know? And you're like, I don't know how to deal with that. I don't even know how to deal with myself when I make a mistake. What am I supposed to do with them? So, yeah.
I think it starts with having the right people. When you have the right people, one, it's going to be those one-offs, and we know that. We
Yeah.
know that. I've been hiring and firing now, and for me, my key to hiring and firing is making sure, especially hiring, they have the what I consider to be the right responsibilities at home. When they have the wrong responsibilities at home, that's when what you just said becomes kind of the norm, and it happens more and more because the employees that I've fired that have the wrong responsibilities at home, those things have happened. The ones that have what I consider to be the right responsibilities at home, those are just one offs, and they feel bad for it. And I know they're going to try to bust their ass to make it back for the company because at some level they do care. Otherwise, they wouldn't still be there. They wouldn't still be showing up. And for me, it's okay. Are they married with kids? Okay, if this technician, we're assuming this is a male, and his girlfriend doesn't have three kids from three different men. Well, that's to me the wrong responsibilities at home. Not there's anything wrong with that. I just know in my case, because I've had those Texas employees, I've had a couple of them. They're no longer working for me. They cost me more money than they ever made, and it's because, and this is just my opinion, is they have the wrong responsibilities at home. The staff that I have now, they got the right responsibilities at home, and that stuff doesn't happen. So it's how do we learn and recognize that during that interview process without violating state labor laws on hiring, so that way we
Yes.
know that this person, they don't, because hey, we all got a little, we all remember, well, I'm sure you're old enough to remember the Jerry Springer show. We all got
Yeah.
a little Jerry in us, right? Some just got more so than others. So it's like in this interview, how do we figure out what level of Jerry they got? Because then I know what level of employee they got. The less Jerry, the better employee. The more Jerry, the worse employee. It's that simple, and it's figuring that out on the front end. And that's just something I've had that aha moment that I've realized because my service advisor, she just quit, and the reason she quit is because she's got she was a wolf in sheep's clothing. She's got a lot of Jerry, and I didn't find that out till about a month after I hired her. And eventually, I knew she wasn't. I was in the early stages of methodically pushing her out the door anyhow, and she quit anyway. It's that. So to
Yeah.
me, what you're talking about, it's when we hire the right people, those situations, I can absorb the blow with the right people. It's when I got the wrong people is when it's a challenge for me, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. With the right people, I just kind of brush it off and we just move on.
Yeah. The Jerry scale. Call it the Jerry
Yep.
scale, right?
The Jerry scale. Yeah,
And
that's
it's
what it is, man. It's the truth. Hey, I got some Jerry Springer in me too. I'm not
yeah.
exempt, but I've worked really hard on, pushing more of the Jerry out the door.
Yeah. It's
We'll
tough
call it
in
the
an inter
geriatric scale.
Jerry. It's tough in an interview process too, though, because I mean, it's just terrible. Interviews are terrible, right, for everybody, and everyone just gets nervous, right? And the one thing I've noticed, and I haven't done a lot, but enough to realize that some of the best employees, the best technicians, don't interview very well, right? Because they haven't looked for a job very often. So it's typically like, man,
Yeah.
I haven't been interviewed in like 6 or 7 years, and so they're kind of clunky and all over. And then you get these guys that come in and they're just smooth talkers. It's like, man, you're like really good at this. So it's like the best people to interview are usually the worst employees, right? Because they've been interviewed so many times in their life. Just something I've realized, you know. So it's like I almost want the clunky, awkward interview going on, but then, like you said, how do you find out about the personal life, what's really going on, and asking like kind of leading questions of like, is there anything that would keep you from being here, 5 days a week? Like, but then they lie to you anyway. So it's like, what do? You got to just wait, and then you got to know when just to step in and say, can you really fix this? Can you fix their home problems? And then how involved do you get as a leader and owner in their personal lives before you're like, okay, now you're just taking advantage of my goodwill, right?
Yeah, that's a great question because my service advisor that just quit, her husband had warrants out in Illinois, and he was driving a car with expired Illinois plates. Long story short, and we've all done this. I shelled out, I think about $1,900 so they could get a car legal, so they had peace of mind driving back, and she was
Mm,
paying me back $50 a week, paid me back like 300 of it. Then she quit. My bookkeeper said, "Well, you could just hold us our last check." I was like, "No, you know what? It's my peace of mind is worth way more. Just pay her what she's always being paying, and I'm just going to be done and move on." And that's not the first time I've done that. And that's not the first time it's come back to haunt me. So I just I got to pull the reins in on that. I'm there to provide. I'm there to be an employer, not a therapist, not a financial advisor, not a lot of things. Now the two that I have working with me now, I would be more inclined to do that because they've got longevity with me, and I truly know what type of people they are. For me, it takes 90 days to really know what I got. This is what I've taught everybody that wants to hire, or I mentor young business owners now. I love doing that, and it takes 90 days to figure out what you got. Because my advisor, her 90 days was this past Monday, and she quit the Friday before. It takes
wow.
90 days for me to really understand what I have.
Yeah.
And then to take that to the next level, it takes 120 to know, okay, they're really going to stick around. And that's been my 90 to know what I got. And then after that 120, which is 4 months, then I know, is this going to be, this has a lot potential to be long term.
The sustainability, you probably can more sustainable. You can get the
Yeah.
sustainability. And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that's a good point of reference because the 90-day probation period, it's kind of like a standard practice, but I don't think a lot really know why. Like, why is it 90? It's like it is what it is. But it's true
Yeah.
though. Once they break that probation period, you can tell, has this all been a front? Are they been I mean, and I think in our industry, you still don't know who they are technically, but at least you get a better idea of who they are personally, right? Because in 90 days, you don't work on the same car twice typically. So it's like, I don't know. It takes a year, I think, before you really start figuring out their aptitude. For me, anyway, it's like, man, what are you good at? what is something that you really produce for me for? And it's like, man, it takes a long time to really get someone dialed in, and then obviously they're constantly evolving themselves too. So it's tough on the technician side. For me, looking at an interview and trying to ask those right leading questions is like, are you AAC certified? When's their last training and all this? Like, I don't even care anymore. Like, what do you do on the weekends, right? Like what's going on? Like, can you show up every day? Are you gonna be late? Like, you like to go party? Like, I think that's more important than like how many ACs do you have? How fast can you pull a transmission out of a 2014 Chevy 2500? Like, who cares? That stuff happens later.
Yeah,
So
I think that's all really valid points. What I do is, as best I can, is look on Facebook. And
yeah,
we know
go
as
stalking.
technicians, yeah, most technicians are off the radar. Like my master tech, he checks his email when he orders something online to get that confirmation. Or not, he don't check it. He don't look at it.
Yeah, what's up?
They're
What's
not.
up with that, man? What's with no one using their damn email?
I use mine constantly, but I'm a business owner because I've attempted to get texts off Indeed, and I'll message people and reach out, and this has happened multiple times. As I get a phone call 3 months later, I just checked my email. Is this position still available? Like, are you kidding me? They're just, and that's just the nature of that of
But
that persona.
that doesn't make him a bad tech, right? And that's the
No,
one
hell
thing too.
no.
Like that's the one thing I've heard too is like, well, if they can't even check their email, then they're not going to be a good fit anyways. Like, well, wait a second, that's not fair. That's not a
Right?
fair
That's not.
assumption.
No, that's
Yeah,
not part of the job description. Part of the job description is to test the car, tell me what's wrong with it, fix it, and don't come back. I
yeah,
could, so the best, the two that I have, because my business model is I got three, and is they were organic. My lead tech, he was referred to me by the tool truck. The other apprentice tech, my partner on the used auto sales side. I got the most amazing young lady working for me. She's 22 years old. She's a perfectly good example. You don't need tech school to do this. You not knocking tech school. I went through Rankin Tech here in St. Louis in the late 90s, and you don't need it. She has everything that you need to be a good skilled technician. She shows up on time. She's not texting her boyfriend. She's not on Facebook, and she's mechanically inclined. She has the aptitude to learn this trade. That's all you need. You need those things that I just said. You do not need tech school because she has all those things. We're willing to put our time, efforts, because she's coming up on a year with me. And I just gave her $2.50 raise because she's just a rock star, because she earned it. And I
yeah,
came up and I told her why. And I told her because she's 22, dude, she closes on a house next Friday. Like, are you kidding me? How do I get more of you?
yeah.
I sure as hell wasn't able to buy a house at 22 years old. I was doing some things that I'm not going to publicly say. I'll just leave it at that
Yeah,
at 22
you and
years
me
old.
both. You and me both, man.
Right, right. She's got things. So no, you know what? Is tech school great? Yes, I think so. I think it's got its place. Do you need it? No. She's got what you need to do this. She wants to do it. She's got the aptitude. Her dad was a mechanic. That had a big influence on it.
Yeah,
And she's
I
a
think it's
rock
the
star.
why. It's the why and the want, right? Because
Hmm.
you can get plenty of people, master technicians, went to UTI, Wyotech, whatever, and they just have this ego that they know what they're doing, but they don't, right? And we've seen it, and that puts a bad taste in everyone's mouth for the ASE program as well. Like, oh, all these ASE master techs think they're just the shit. It's like, no, because there's lots of them that don't open their mouth, right? That don't say that they are, right? And they know their shit. So it's tough because there's that ego trip and they think they know a lot, but they don't really want to do it. They thought it was going to be something that it's not, and now they're in debt or now they're like embedded in it and they're like, just this isn't the glory that I saw on TV, right? Like it's not.
Mm.
So they lose their want. But it's people that were raised in it. And I was the same way. My dad was the ultimate DIY, right? And it was like just drove me nuts the amount of times we spent going to dealerships and like talking to the guys out back, like back in the day when you could go to a dealership and be like, hey, can I just pick someone's brain? And they, oh, sure, the technicians are out back. And you back. I'm like, oh my God, Dad, what are we like doing here? Like, but it was such a valuable lesson because we can't do that anymore, for one. But for two, is like, do the research, take the time to figure out what you're doing before you start taking stuff apart. Learning the hard way, right? But that's so ingrained in me now, I don't know any different. And now I want to learn anything new. Like I need to know how that works. I need to know how to fix it. Almost to a fault, right? Because some of these jobs I just need to kick. I don't need to be doing that. What am I 1937 chord here right now? Like, why am I what? How did I get involved in this? Right. And it's like I knew better, but I'm still messing with it, right? But it's
Uh,
just one of those things. If you want it and you know and you have that why, I think that's what changes. It sounds like that's who she is, right? It's like it doesn't matter what it is. I'm gonna figure it out because I want to know what this stuff is. And you get other guys like, I don't know how to do this. Well, look it up. Can you just tell me what? That's where do I even start with something like that? Like, how do you even manage that? Like, yeah, you're a good kid, you show up, but you want me to tell you every single time you run into a problem? I don't know. That drives me crazy.
yeah, you can't teach that. You can't teach that at all. That's yeah. No, thankfully I don't. There's one of the first tires I had is I had a kid. He was like that. He had everything I can't teach. He didn't have the aptitude for this, and I held on to him longer than I should have because of that. And one day I just had to flat out tell him, "Look, dude, you're a great guy. He would take out the trash, show up on time, do all that stuff. He didn't have the aptitude to learn. I said, I just had to flat. I don't know what you're good at. It's not this. It's just he just didn't have it. I think you either got it. You're either mechanically inclined or you're not. If you're not, it can be taught. From my experience with dealing with that, it's going to be a big struggle. at the time I didn't really have a need for a general service tech to do, tires, brakes, and oil changes and that type of stuff. So I had to tell them. The other thing I'll say about ASEs is, to me, ASEs tell me that somebody is dedicated to this. They're
Good
dedicated
point.
to
Good
automotive.
point.
That's
Yep.
what ASEs tell me. I used to have all of them. I've let them expire. I don't feel the need or desire. When I found out most of the customers could care less, they just assume that. That's been my experience in talking to them. My master tech, he doesn't have any of them. I don't care because I know he's dedicated and into it. So when I bring on somebody or I'm looking at somebody, to me, if they have all those ASEs, that tells me that they're dedicated to automotive. Because if they're dedicated to, and I don't care what it is, fill in the blank, that gives me a good inclination what I'm going to get on the front end. Because we all know people. When I went through Rankin Tech here, there was a math teacher. He didn't know how to use a screwdriver, but he had every ASE to prove to the automotive department, if you know how to take tests, you can pass those. You don't need to be a technician to pass those. You just got to know how to
Yeah.
take tests and you can pass those.
Hmm. Yeah, it's by no means a measure, but it's definitely a bar, right? Like it's most
Mm-hmm.
definitely a bar. And even though he couldn't fix anything, he could probably have a pretty well educated conversation about most aspects of a vehicle, right? And that's important, especially like as a service advisor. If you could have your master tech as a service advisor, even if you don't know how to fix anything, you can manipulate a conversation to make it make sense to anybody, right? You got to know it well enough to teach it. Like you got to know,
Mm-hmm.
like you got to know it to be able to teach it, right? But yeah, it's one of those things. It's I don't know if it's looked down upon, but they've definitely changed how easy it is to get, which is great too, because you don't want to like
Mm.
shun away a lot of people. So I get why they've taken that testing and moved it in that direction, because a lot were getting discouraged. And that's the last thing we need is more discouraged technicians leaving the field, right? So if nothing else, at least strokes your ego a little bit and makes you think you know more than maybe you really do, which is great. So overall, there's more pros than there are cons about it. I don't really appreciate when I see this stuff online about people bashing the ASC. Like, if you took the time to take the test, you would understand that it's not easy. It might be simple, but it's not easy. It takes time, it takes money, it takes a little bit of studying. You got to know a little bit. And so give people the props that they deserve for it, man. Like, sure, maybe they can't fix a sandwich, but they took the time to learn enough to pass this test that has to do with all of us making this industry better. So I mean, yeah,
Well, that goes back
the
to
ASC
exactly how
thing, yeah.
yeah. That goes back to when we started. It's people that looking at somebody else and putting what they're doing is what they think somebody else should be doing. That's a big
Exactly.
problem in this industry and all these
Yeah.
Facebook groups. There's too many people that are telling other people, what they think they should be doing instead of thinking about, okay, what am I doing? And if I tell this other individual, because I'm just going back to me selling cars and talk about car sales on some of these Facebook groups, other people like to tell me what they think I should be doing. And it's like, why do you care? How is this benefiting you? How is this improving the quality of your life? That's exactly what you're talking about. There is when they shun down on these ASEs. To me, when I used to take them, I don't think they were like applicable anymore. They weren't modernized. They still talked about rebuilding alternators and rebuilding starters
Yeah.
and stuff that we just don't do anymore. So hopefully they've modernized them and brought them up to current industry standards. When I got into this, we used to rebuild CV axles. When was the last time you rebuilt a CV axle? We don't do that anymore.
I still have the
We
tool
were,
though.
yeah, I do too. No, I got stuff. I told
I
my
can't throw it
apprentice,
away because I'm like, maybe one day
yeah, I've
I'll
got.
do
It's
this again.
funny. What's cool now about having a young apprentice like Emily is I get to go up to her. That wrench you're using? It's older than you are, because that used to happen to me. So now it's my turn to do it to somebody else. I love it. I love it. She just
Uh,
laughs, and but
she's like, I don't,
it's
I
like
don't really care.
I just do it just to because I just got to talk shit and it gets a good laugh out of it. She thinks it's funny and and
Yeah,
and
and the
and
cycle
whatnot.
just continues. Yeah,
Yeah, but that's what guys told me. Like, I got tools older than you, and blah blah. And they were right. And it's like, whoa, I'm at that age where I can say that. Like, I got tools that are older than the new generation coming in.
get to put that badge on, that plaque of honor.
It it is. It's a badge and honor. So one thing that I have noticed, go back to the interview process,
Yeah,
is I want to make sure that they're. So to me, because my service advisor's position has been a struggle to fill for me for whatever reason. I don't know why, and that position typically pays better than the technician's position.
Yeah.
Is are they dedicated to automotive? Okay, and are they dedicated to automotive? Because here's how I've learned to define a career as a job. Is I've had a couple people. I hired a childhood friend of mine as a service advisor, and he's a great salesman. And when after he lasted 6 weeks, and I fired his ass. And after looking at his resume, it was he wasn't committed to a career. He had always done sales, but he had industry hopped, industry hopped, industry hopped, industry hopped, industry hopped. So, I want to make sure that this candidate I'm bringing on, their resume is full of automotive. That shows that they're committed and they're dedicated. They know what automotive is, what they want to do. Now, the other thing is, okay, let's say they started out of high school, they were in a couple different jobs for 10 years and they've been automotive for 5 years. That's fine. Now, here's another situation that I would entertain this. Let's say somebody's been in furniture sales for 20 years. Okay. The resume just shows furniture store to furniture store, furniture store. Okay. That shows dedication. That shows commitment. And maybe they're in their mid 40s. Look, dude, I'm just burned out. I'm looking for something different to do. I would take a chance on that because I know that they have the ability to be committed and be dedicated to it. That's one thing I've learned with hiring for that position. And same thing with the technician. I want to see that this guy has consistent work history as being a tech. I don't put I don't put a whole lot of weight in the job hopping because I job hop a lot when I was younger. And some of it had to do with just the people I was working with. Some of it had to do just with my life situation. So I understand that and respect that. And I'll ask questions. It's just the key is it consistent? Job, because that's a career. If you're in an
Yeah.
industry, that's a career. A job is when you go from furniture sales to shoe sales to pool sales to selling fences and decks. You're just looking for the next job. You don't know what the hell you want to be when you grow up. Honestly, that's what
Well,
it tells me.
you're just searching for the paycheck.
Yeah, exactly. There's no
Yeah.
passion, there's no drive, there's no why. So for the service advisor's position, you know what? I've pulled one person away from the dealership. Not that I wouldn't be willing to do that again, but my next one will be I want somebody that's got dedicated automotive, independent auto repair shop experience. It's just a whole nother world at a dealership.
All right, again, that's David Marks on the Gearbox Podcast. Listen next week for part 2.